Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 1077, Chapter Fuck. The night winds carried a faint chill, yet within the imperial halls, tension simmered like a blade hidden beneath silk. Murong Qing was the first to break the silence, her voice calm, yet edged with concern. "Fourth brother, you've been away for far too long. Some have begun to harbor improper thoughts." Before the echo of her words could fade, the Rain Emperor let out a cold snort. His gaze sharpened, and within his eyes burned a killing intent that seemed ready to tear through the heavens themselves. "Government decrees have recently met resistance," he said, his tone heavy with authority. "Those beneath us are beginning to forget their place." Among the four brothers, none understood the governance of a nation better than him, and none carried a fiercer, more domineering killing intent. Ling Han merely smiled. To him, such matters were no more than ripples on the surface of a vast ocean. As long as one possessed overwhelming strength, everything else could be crushed into submission. He understood the situation clearly. By aligning with a majestic empire, the Great Ling Empire had gained a powerful shield. External threats were nearly non-existent. No neighboring nation would dare provoke them lightly. And even if war came, they could call upon their suzerain, just as the Eastern Rain Nation once had. But internal strife? That was another matter entirely. The chaotic star's majestic empire would not interfere in such trivial disputes. As long as the territory remained under their banner, they would not lift a finger. This was a matter for Ling Han and his brothers alone. He waved a hand dismissively, his tone light. "My brothers, these are but small concerns. Today is a day of reunion. Let us not cloud it with such matters. Come, we drink, and we drink until not a drop remains sober within us. Ha ha ha! Well said." Feng Po Yun and the others burst into laughter, their spirits rising. They raised their cups high, and wine flowed like a river as they drank with abandon. That night, even Ling Han, who rarely allowed himself to lose control, succumbed to intoxication. When dawn broke, golden light slipped quietly into the room. Ling Han stirred. His mind was still hazy as he opened his eyes, only to freeze in shock. In his arms lay a woman of breathtaking beauty, soft, alluring, and dangerously captivating. Shu Yanyu, his face turned pale. Did we do anything last night?" he asked, his voice tinged with panic. Shu Yanyu's cheeks flushed instantly, a mix of embarrassment and irritation flashing across her face. She rolled her eyes at him. "You were drunk out of your mind," she said coldly. "I helped you back here, but you clung on to me and refused to let go no matter what I did, so I had no choice but to stay." In other words, he had been too drunk to do anything at all. Ling Han let out a long breath of relief. "Good," he said quickly. "If something like that had happened while I was completely muddle-headed, that would have been far too much of a loss." Before he could finish, a pillow slammed straight into his face. "Ayo!" Ling Han rubbed his nose, then grinned mischievously. "Wife, are you upset because I didn't do anything yesterday? Feeling resentful, perhaps?" Shu Yanyu's eyes widened. This shameless man. "You!" Her anger exploded. Whatever she could grab, she hurled at him. Another pillow, the blanket, then even the teacup and saucer. "Shua! Shua!" Objects flew through the air one after another, yet Ling Han caught each effortlessly, tossing them aside onto the bed with ease. Soon Shu Yanyu found herself with nothing left to throw. Ling Han chuckled. Then, like a swift predator, he lunged forward. In an instant, he pinned her beneath him, trapping her delicate body. "Tsk, tsk. I truly admire myself," he said smugly. Shu Yanyu's breathing grew uneven beneath his weight. Her eyes softened, her body turning supple like water. "Amazed by what?" she asked softly. Ling Han grinned, his gaze teasing. "Through my diligent efforts, it seems this place of yours has grown a little." His hand moved, a gentle squeak. A soft, involuntary moan escaped her lips. "Damn pervert!" Shu Yanyu's face burned red as though set aflame. Her entire being trembled with embarrassment. Why was this man always obsessed with that part of her body? Were the rest of her not made of flesh as well? But before her thoughts could continue, her words vanished beneath a sudden burning kiss. Ling Han's lips claimed hers. Igniting a fire that spread through her entire being, her resistance melted. Her arms wrapped around his neck. She responded. Passion surged. The air itself seemed to grow heavy with heat. And just as the moment reached its peak, bang, 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 a knock shattered everything. Ling Han froze. His expression darkened instantly. "Who dared?" A voice followed, dripping with mischief. "Little Han, wake up and go to the toilet." It was Helian Tianyun. Ling Han's face twitched. Of course, only that old pervert would ruin such a moment. He sighed helplessly. Looking at Shui Yanyu, whose eyes were already turning dazed and distant, he knew the moment was lost. This woman was shy to the core. After this, she would likely avoid him for several days. If he wanted to devour her, he would have to wait. He clicked his tongue. Forget it. Business first. Soon after, Ling Han gathered everyone, his 3 brothers, Ding Ping and Helian Tianyun. His expression turned serious. Then he began to teach. What he imparted were cultivation techniques from the immortal realm. However, he was careful. The Universal 8 Desolation technique had been taught to him by Old Man Su. Without permission, he would not pass it on. Similarly, the Scarlet Heaven Academy forbade the private transmission of its techniques. Thus, what he taught Helian Tianyun was the technique he had acquired at the auction. Though not the highest grade, it was still far superior to anything from the Scarlet Heaven Academy. Ling Han spoke calmly, yet his words carried weight. "My 3 brothers, when the sky was opened, you were not the central figures. Your strength cannot reach 20 stars, but 18, 19, that is within reach." He paused. Before attempting to ascend to the immortal level, cultivate until you can go no further. Feng Po Yun and the others nodded firmly. They were not ordinary men. They would not settle for mediocrity. If they were to become immortals, they would become invincible among their peers. This time, things were different from before. Back when Ling Han first entered the chaotic star's majestic empire, he had nothing. Now, the treasures he brought out rivaled those of elites in the heavenly body tier. After all, these were treasures meant for the mortal realm. No matter how rare, their value had limits. And Ling Han's Jade Heaven pills, they were a gold mine. His wealth flowed endlessly. Helian Tianyun, however, sighed softly. As a descendant of the dragon race, his bloodline was extraordinary. He had ascended to the immortal level quickly, relying on that advantage. But because of that, he had not pushed his limits. He had not reached perfection. A faint regret lingered in his heart. But what could he do? To abandon this life and reincarnate again? Such treasures were unimaginably rare, even in the immortal realm. Fortunately, 16 stars of strength was not weak. After all, the shattering void tier was only one step on the path. It did not define one's future. Ling Han distributed resources without hesitation. His goal was clear: to help his brothers reach the immortal level as quickly as possible. But only after their foundations had been tempered to absolute perfection. Then, his gaze shifted to Ding Ping. This disciple, he had accepted him, but had hardly taught him, a failure of a master. Ling Han frowned inwardly. Then he made a decision. Training began. What followed was hell. Inside the Black Tower, Ding Ping's screams echoed endlessly. They were sharp, desperate, terrifying. Anyone who heard them would feel a chill crawl up their spine. Such was the intensity of Ling Han's training. Meanwhile, Ling Han's lips curved into a faint smile. In just a few days, the reincarnation tree will fully mature. His eyes gleamed. This was his greatest treasure, to cultivate beneath it. Each moment was a lifetime. It was nothing short of defying the heavens. Origin power, physical strength, those could be improved with pills and treasures. But comprehension, that depended solely on oneself. The reincarnation tree changed everything. It extended time. Endlessly. Finally, a weak voice broke through the air. "Master, can I rest for a bit?" Ding Ping's face twisted in agony. He was carrying a massive boulder, and atop that boulder sat Ling Han. The weight was unbearable. His arms trembled violently. That was because Ling Han had infused the stone with divine gravity patterns. Though only a fraction of their power, for someone at the spiritual infant tier, it was crushing. Ling Han didn't even look up. "No." A pause. Run 3 more rounds. Ding Ping nearly collapsed, but he gritted his teeth and ran. The days passed in a rhythm of discipline and suffering. Every single day, Ling Han drove Ding Ping to his limits, again and again, until the young man's cries of pain echoed through the training grounds like the wails of a beast cornered at the edge of death. Yet beneath those cries, something extraordinary was taking shape. Ding Ping was changing. With every strike endured, every bone-shaking impact, every drop of sweat and blood, his strength surged forward at a pace that defied common sense. What Ling Han alone understood, but Ding Ping himself did not, was that the boy carried within him a rare and terrifying blessing, a bloodline, or perhaps destiny itself. When that hidden power stirred, Ding Ping's strength did not merely increase, it erupted, a 100-fold surge, like a volcano breaking free from the earth's crust, bursting into the heavens with unstoppable fury. Such an ability was nothing short of monstrous. Even in the immortal realm, where geniuses gathered like stars in the night sky, this single trait alone was enough to allow him to surpass 2-star battle prowess. And more terrifying still, it was permanent. In the immortal level, each small step forward in cultivation was like crossing a vast chasm, each sub-minor level separated by a gap of nearly 10-fold strength. To leap 100-fold in an instant meant crossing the distance of 2 entire sub-levels in one surge. Such a thing was beyond ordinary comprehension. No wonder that 4-star geniuses were already considered rare treasures of heaven and earth, and 5-star prodigies existed only in whispered legends, spoken of in awe and disbelief. Ling Han's eyes burned with determination. He would not allow such a gift to go unpolished. He would carve this raw, untamed power into something that could shake the heavens themselves. And so he trained Ding Ping without mercy. 4 days passed like this. Then, on the 4th day, the heavens themselves seemed to respond. The reincarnation tree had fully matured, its crown spread outward, vast and majestic, stretching across 300 meters like a living canopy of the Tao itself. Each leaf shimmered faintly, carrying within it the drifting aura of the great Tao, ancient, profound, and immeasurable. Ling Han stood before it, silent. He had witnessed its growth with his own eyes. Yet now, standing beneath its branches, he felt as though he were facing something that had endured the passage of countless ages. As if this tree had stood here, for millions upon millions of years. A being that required 12 trillion years to reach maturity had been brought to completion in what felt like the blink of an eye. Ling Han exhaled slowly. "The Black Tower," he murmured, "truly defies reason. His rise, his path, his transformation, none of it could be separated from this mysterious treasure. Without it, even if he had not fallen in his previous life, he would have remained nothing more than an Alchemy Emperor, in the path of martial arts. He would have been ordinary. Because the foundation of his early cultivation had been flawed, fatally so. At that moment, the small tower appeared once more, its presence flickering into existence like a whisper from another realm. "This reincarnation tree," it said calmly, "did not grow through natural means. Its growth was accelerated using my source power. As a result, its effects are somewhat diminished." Ling Han turned, listening closely. "Comprehending Tao beneath it will not grant the effect of a single moment equaling a lifetime," the small tower continued. "Instead, 1 day will equal 1 year." Ling Han's eyes widened. That alone was already heaven-defying. "And after another 10 years, the small tower added, its leaves may be harvested and refined into tea. At that time, a single cup may grant 10 years' worth of spiritual comprehension." It paused briefly. "However, my source power has been completely exhausted once more. I cannot accelerate its growth any further." Ling Han let out a breath, then smiled. "Enough," he said. "This is already more than I could have hoped for." The small tower scoffed lightly. "That is only because you are like a frog at the bottom of a well. You do not realize that treasures capable of manipulating time are not as rare as you think." It suddenly stopped, as if it had spoken too much. "I must continue repairing the Black Tower," it said abruptly. "Unless it is something of importance, do not disturb me." With that, it vanished. No matter how many times Ling Han called for it afterward, it did not return. Ling Han clenched his teeth. "I am the master here, am I not?" he muttered. "And yet it dares treat me like this. Truly unbearable." Still, he shook his head. There were more important matters to attend to. Without hesitation, he summoned Shui Yanyu, Feng Po Yun, and the others, bringing them all into the Black Tower. Then, he led them beneath the reincarnation tree. What followed could only be described as madness. For cultivators who had already reached such heights, the greatest obstacle was no longer strength, but time. Time to comprehend, time to grasp the mysteries of heaven and earth. Yet here, 1 day was equal to 1 year. What kind of concept was that? Even a creature as dull as a pig, if placed beneath this tree long enough, could ascend to godhood. At first, their cultivation had been limited by their understanding. Their origin, power, and physical strength had surpassed their comprehension of Dao. Now, the situation had reversed. Their spiritual cultivation surged ahead, racing beyond their physical limits, leaving their bodies struggling to keep pace. Fortunately, Ling Han was an Alchemy Emperor. If their bodies lagged behind, he had only to refine pills to accelerate their progress. And with the reincarnation tree ensuring their understanding remained stable, there was no danger of unstable foundations. Still, among them all, the first to break through was Ling Han himself. He had long stood at the peak of the medium extreme. Now, beneath the reincarnation tree, his comprehension surged forward at a speed that could only be described as blinding. For an ordinary genius, this step would require centuries. Even for Ling Han, a monstrous talent, it should have taken decades. But here, decades became days. And more importantly, he still carried within him the essence of the Demon Master. Solving entirely the problem of accumulating origin power, comprehension and accumulation advanced together. What could possibly slow him down? Nothing. Without hesitation, Ling Han departed the Great Ling Empire in the cloud-piercing shuttle, traveling far into a desolate, uninhabited plain. There, he prepared to face his heavenly tribulation. Within the empire, hidden currents stirred. Ambitious figures waited in the shadows, harboring thoughts of rebellion. Ling Han chose not to suppress them. Instead, he gave them space to reveal themselves. Better to face them now than to allow them to grow into a greater threat later. Thus, he concealed his return. And now, as he stood beneath the open sky, the heavens responded. Lightning descended, thunder roared. For Ling Han, advancing even a minor level had become an ordeal akin to torture. His body shattered. His flesh tore apart. Only his godly bones remained, tempered by the relentless fury of the tribulation. Pain tore through him. He shouted again and again, his voice echoing across the barren plains. If Ding Ping had heard him, the boy would surely have found comfort in knowing that even his monstrous master could scream like this. Half a day later, the tribulation faded. The storm passed. Ling Han lay there, breathing heavily, then consumed a drop of indestructible true fluid. In an instant, his body restored itself. His strength surged upward like a rising tide. His bones, now tempered, had reached the hardness of level 4 godly metal. Ling Han stood, a smile forming on his lips. Now, he said softly, even if I cannot suppress an opponent at the peak of consummate level, I need not fear them. His gaze sharpened. Even in a prolonged battle, I can wear them down to death. His defense, his recovery. Together, they were shamelessly overwhelming. Unless an opponent could kill him instantly, they would inevitably fall into despair. Meanwhile, among the others, the one who progressed the fastest was the Rain Emperor. His talent stood nearly equal to Ling Han's, lacking only the fortune of obtaining something like the Black Tower. 2 months passed. His strength reached 19 stars of the Shattering Void tier. The power of the reincarnation tree was undeniable. Soon after, he began comprehending the mysteries of the immortal level. With Ling Han and Shui Yanyu guiding him, breaking through would only take days. Though, of course, days beneath the reincarnation tree were equal to years. Not long after, Feng Po Yun reached 18 stars. Murong Qing reached 17. The difference in their talents became clear. The Rain Emperor stood at the peak. Feng Po Yun followed closely. Murong Qing trailed just behind. Even so, Shui Yanyu was left utterly shaken. 17 stars of Shattering Void tier. Such power meant battle prowess exceeding 22 stars, perhaps even more. How many such geniuses existed in the Chaotic Star's majestic empire? And yet, this small Great Ling Empire had 4. Helian Tianyun had reached 16 stars, and Ding Ping, that monstrous disciple, with his 100-fold burst of power, if he could reach 18 or 19 stars before breaking through, then upon entering the immortal level, his battle prowess might exceed 6 stars. 6 stars! Even the thought of it sent chills down Shui Yanyu's spine. 5-star geniuses were legends, and now, a 6-star monster might emerge. Even Ling Han would not match that. Yet Ling Han himself remained calm. Strength alone did not determine victory. If the Rain Emperor fought Ding Ping at the same level, Ding Ping would lose. And against Ling Han, he had no chance at all, because Ling Han's physique, his recovery, were simply beyond reason. At the same time, Ling Han felt his own strength continuing to rise. The Nine Dragons' Tyrant body art, the Universal Eight Desolation Technique. Both were supreme arts. They refined his body. They purified his origin power. His raw strength was approaching 5-star level. Days passed. Then, one after another, the Rain Emperor, Feng Po Yun, and Murong Qing broke through into the mountain river tier. At last, the Great Ling Empire began to resemble a true royal empire.